Good morning, students. The other day, I've already completed chapter 6, that is capital and revenue expenditure and income. And what all things I've discussed from that particular chapter as per the council syllabus. I've discussed the meaning of capital expenditure, the features of capital expenditure, and the meaning of revenue expenditure, the features of revenue expenditure, and then the differences between capital expenditure and the revenue expenditure. There I told you, if you know the meaning and if you know the features of these two things, easily you will be able to differentiate them. And then I discuss few examples of capital expenditure and few examples of revenue expenditure. Afterwards, I discuss the meaning of capital income, and then I discuss the features of capital income. Afterwards, I discuss the meaning of revenue income and the features of revenue income. And at last, I discuss the differences between capital income and revenue income. And at last, I told you the meaning of defrauded revenue expenditure, and then I told you it is a kind of revenue expenditure, but in this case, because other revenue expenditure you are getting the benefit in that particular year only, financial year only, but in this kind, though the expenditure is like a revenue expenditure, but the benefit you are getting for a long period of time. That is why it has a different name. It is a revenue expenditure, but the name is defrauded revenue expenditure. And there I have given you the example of defrauded revenue expenditure. And one more thing I told you, beta, if the question asks you define defrauded revenue expenditure, you have to write the examples. If you don't write the examples, you are not going to get the full marks in this case. Okay? And in today's class, just I am going to tell you which all question and answer you are supposed to write from this particular chapter. Everything is discussed. Which all questions I am going to tell you to write. Please write those question and answers in your copy. And if you have any doubt, any kind of questions, any kind of query about this question, how to write it, please ask me during the live classes. Whatever you have question, whatever you have doubt, please ask and make it clear. Because from this chapter, basically short question, 2 marks question come, either the definitions or 1 or 2 examples or the differences. So 2 marks question may come in your board examinations. In long questions basically never come from this particular chapter, only short answers questions come. But okay, so let me discuss which are question and answer you are supposed to write from this particular chapter. You just write all those. Okay, follow this YouTube video and whichever question answer I told you that you are supposed to write it. Like first question, define capital expenditure and give 4 examples. You don't do 4, you write here 2 examples. So you know how to do the definition of capital expenditure and you just write 2 examples of capital expenditure. Beta. Next question, what is meant by revenue expenditure? And here also you add one thing, define revenue expenditure and what? Give 2 examples of it. You know what is called revenue expenditure, you know the meaning of expenditure, and you know the meaning of revenue. Revenue means which is taking place very frequently, very often. They are basically called revenue. Revenue basically you are doing it for the purpose of daily use or day-to-day functioning of any organizations. Alright, that is what is called the revenue. Next, beta, what is meant by defrauded revenue expenditure? See, almost all the year it is coming. This year also it will come, I am telling you. What is meant by defrauded revenue expenditure? I told you, I have written it the definition earlier. Once more I am telling you. Defrauded revenue expenditure is a kind of revenue expenditure, but the benefit of which you are going to get it or execute it for a long period of time, not only for that particular current accounting year. And this kind of revenue expenditure is not done for the purpose of getting some fixed assets. It is basically done for our day-to-day business purpose. Example, heavy advertising expenditure. Very important. I have already written it. You please see it. Nicely write it. Next, distinguish between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. This is very important. Question number 7. Distinguish between capital expenditure. I told you at least 3 references is very important. You must write it. And whenever you are going to write the references, point of distinction has to be there and it has to be in the tabulary form. I already written it. I hope you are knowing it. Once more you go through the YouTube videos, you will be able to understand it. Next which one I will tell you which all things you are supposed to write. Okay. Next question number 5. Define capital receipts and give 2 examples. Fine. You know what is capital receipt? You give 2 examples. Next question number 6. What are revenue receipts? And give 2 examples only, do it. Alright. Mention any 2 ratios are not there in the syllabus. Next question number 12. Distinguish between capital receipts and the revenue receipts. That's the only things you are supposed to come. Which your question answer? Question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, then question number 5, question number 6 and question number 7. This is what you are supposed to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only these question answers you are supposed to write it. Alright. So that's there. That's the end of this particular chapter. I told you the meaning. I explained you each and everything. I told you which all question answer you are supposed to write. And basically from this chapter, a short question answers come in the board examination. A 2 marks question basically come. And the most important things, define differentiated revenue expenditure. This is the question it always come in the examination. I am sure in your examinations, board exam in 2022, definitely this question is going to come. Define differentiated revenue expenditure. And whenever you are going to write it, you have to write an examples better. So thank you so much for this particular chapter. Alright.